Hello and welcome to the Rita Ellen Mirchandani Show. I'm Rita and I'm your host, and I'm so excited to welcome you here today. Whether this is your first time tuning in or you are joining us again, thank you so much for joining in. Today we are going to be talking about values, value systems, and how I personally see them as something where we have massive edges of growth available to us at all points in our life, because our value systems can change over our lives, or that's how I see it anyway. So to start, I want to give you a little definition of what a value is. So the essential definition that I just got off Google before this podcast slash videocast was that it is something that you place worth on, or that you see as inherently necessary in your life. And the reason I decided to make a whole video about values is, well, I guess two reasons. The first being that I've seen the massive transformation that it has had in my own life, understanding my value system. And two, I've seen with my clients how much it helps to go deep into value systems and to understand their inherent value systems. It also plays out in things I've seen with friends, family, where I think in general, when we know our value systems, we show up differently and we have a lot less guilt, we have a lot less confusion, and we are able to be more of our authentic selves. So the purpose of this is empowerment to ask deeper questions. If you already know your value system, I want to commend you for that. And this is just an exploration on how we might be able to approach value systems a little differently based on what I've observed and what I even saw in myself. So just for a moment, I want you to pause and just notice if you know your value system. Do you know what makes you feel like the best version of yourself, or what you find worthiness in? Now, just pause and take a moment and think about that. If you don't, great, this episode's for you. Now, you can do some exploration on your own where you go look up value systems, what you find important, and that can be almost a side project after this episode. But for today, I want to talk a little bit about some areas of grayness where I can see that without defining our values, it holds us back. So to start, I've asked a lot of women what their value systems are, and here's something that I see come up as a problem. A lot of women will say, and I've said this myself, that family is my value system. I don't even know where this thought came from. I love my family. I love them dearly. But I think somewhere down the line that was ingrained into me that family was meant to be a value system. And the more I've learned about value systems, the more my perspective on this has changed. So I'm going to share with you what my value systems are now and how that has shaped me. So instead of saying my value system is family, my value system is love. My value system, my top value actually, that goes through my life and through my business and into every relationship I have, is freedom. So the reason that these values were very important for me to understand about myself is that when I said previously that my values were family and friendship, and I'm using these examples because I've heard this a lot from a lot of different clients and a lot of different friends, those values to me were not clear enough. And I've seen this drip into a lot of client relationships. So for example, let's make up someone. We have Sally Mae, and her value system is friendship and family. And she has a friend who is not treating her well. Now, if Sally Mae's friend is not treating her well, but she values friendship and family above all else, it might feel odd to her to set boundaries with those friends and family. It might feel odd to her to say, you know what, I have to let this friend go, or I have to create some space with this family member, because that is her inherent value system. Her sense of what is worthy in the world are those roles. And because of that, she might block, not everyone, but she may not be able to see that, you know what, I also value boundaries, and I also value love. So, for example, for myself, when I think of love as one of my values, I don't see sometimes having a hard conversation or setting a boundary as anything other than love. So, for example, if you had someone in your life who perhaps they, you know, had a gambling problem. Okay, I'm just making up an example. And when they needed money, the first few times you said, okay, like that feels good to me. They're my family. I want to offer them this money. And you give it to them and you trust that they're going to take care of it. They're your family, or they're your friend, they're someone you trust. But then you notice that this is kind of spiraling out of control, that they're coming back more frequently, and you haven't had a return on the money, and you can start to see that it's starting to become debilitating to their life. The value system of love might say in that moment, is it more loving for me right now to give them the money? Or is love asking me to say, hey, I love you, but I can't give you any more money. I am willing to help you find help. But my value system in love is that it's not always just making sure that you stay in my life. And sometimes a value system that's not that clear can lead to that outcome. Well, family does anything for each other. That's a common thing. If you were my friend, you would do this. So the reason I'm bringing up this conversation of value systems is that you can have family and friends as your primary value system and still not fall into these traps, but it requires a deep level of, okay, I know what my core values of myself are underneath that. So if we think of a parent who drops their kid off to college, their value system is, in a way, love. It takes a lot to allow your offspring to leave the nest and to trust them to go grow, versus saying, you know what, family sticks together, you need to stay at home, you need to be by me. And again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. That is one way of living, but it's knowing your value system, what's more important to you. So these are just little explorations to open up what is your value system, what makes you feel good. So for me, understanding my value system is the core reason I have created a life I really enjoy. For a long period of my life, I was believing that the things I wanted were not possible, and if they were possible, they would hurt people around me. So my core value now being freedom, I didn't believe that I could have a business that would let me be free. I didn't think that because at my previous corporate job where I worked around 60 to 70 hours a week, I believed that success meant that I needed to show up constantly and be online and constantly interacting. So when I started my business, I was like, okay, how do we build this in a way where I'm allowed to be free? And I'm at the point now where, I've set up structures and it's definitely not completely perfect, but I'm very happy with how much freedom I have in my business. If I want to take a week off, I can. I just went to Europe for 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, and I was able to keep my business going and I was able to be online, and it was the most nourishing thing I've ever felt. I've also created freedom in my friendships. This has got to the point where friendships that weren't aligned, unfortunately, had to dissolve because, in a way, I wasn't being my authentic self in those other relationships. I wasn't being totally free. I wasn't allowing myself to fully express who I was. And they say when you do that, things unaligned will leave. So that's why knowing your value system is important. I also want to share that I was single for 4 years. And during that time, I never believed it was possible for me to, for a while, have a relationship that, one, supported the type of business that I run, like that could fully support me in that. And that too would be okay if I wanted to go off for a month and explore another country. That to me, that's being free. Like I love jet setting off places. I love going around the world. And I now have that. I have someone who supports me in all of my business adventures. Someone who, if I want to go away for a month, they're like, go. And this all comes from me defining my value set, all of it. Before that, I was still on this trajectory, like I was very much so on this path, but there was so much internal resistance. There's something wrong with you. You're not a good person. Why are you so bizarre? These thoughts. And it was when I radically claimed that I'm just here to love. Like that is what I want to do is I just want to be spreading love. And I want to be free. In that process, I need to be free in whatever way that looks to me. I need to have the freedom to live life on my own terms. So recently, I just started traveling around the country with my partner, and we've been living out of Airbnbs. A dream come true. That's me living a life that feels authentic to me. You know, for a while, I wanted to get a house. I wanted to settle down because I thought that's what I should do. But if I was being completely honest with myself, deep, 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 deep inside, that aspect of freedom, that core value for mine, wanted this. So I'm sharing all of this to see what it sparks in you as you're listening. Deep inside of you, you might be like, God, all of that sounds awful. I know my core value is stability. I know my core value is connection, close connected relationships. I know my core value is home. So even if what I'm saying is not sparking something in you of like, wow, I really like that direction, I hope it is bringing you deeper into what your core values are. So when you hear someone else's, you should have it in like almost like, ooh, I want to lean into that, or oh my gosh, get it away from me. And that will tell you a lot. Now, you can have as many values as you want, right? But defining them is very important. So what I'll often hear is someone who says, I'm just someone who has to be honest. And okay, if that's your value system, that is a great thing. Honesty is great, right? Like we need more of it on our planet. And honesty can make or break relationships depending on how it is executed. So if someone is like, well, I just have to be honest and I say it how it is, a lot of the time, you know, it comes out in ways that aren't maybe the nicest. Not always, but what about if it's I empower others with truth, right? Like even that little subtle shift of a value can change how you show up and display yourself to the world. So what I would like you to do if you're listening, and I would open you up and challenge you to do, is for a moment, think about everything we've talked about so far and just think about your life and notice the area you're having the most friction in. Just think about it. It could be your work. It could be your health. It could be your relationships. And I want you to just notice what intuitively might be the value that might need to change there for you to feel more aligned in that area of your life. Sometimes it is so simple as, you know what? I have been prioritizing friendships by going out a lot, and now I have a financial problem. And so for right now, my value system is financial wellness, taking care of myself, making sure I take care of me so that I am not feeling sick because I haven't been taking care of my wealth. So values change. They're meant to change. They're meant to evolve, right? Right now, I do not have children. If I had children, my value system might change from being complete freedom to, freedom encompassing now having children where that's my main priority. So I want to share that your value system is not meant to stay the same, but if it's just something at the top level, it can create a lot of conflicting thoughts. you know, if your value system, for example, is loyalty. All right, this is a big one. And you're working at a job and you want to leave this job. What does that bring up in someone? The value that you should be loyal, but now you're feeling this conflict of interest. It's time for me to leave my career. It's time for me to do something. What does loyalty mean to you? So, getting deep into the value. Are you loyal to yourself? Are you loyal to those who have been loyal to you? And how do you define that criteria? And what does someone else doing feel like a betrayal to you? You know, we often throw around values, but until we get to the deeper layers, it can feel like just really a constant battle. So that's why I brought up this whole value system today. Often in sessions when I talk about, for example, the value of freedom, I've heard so many times from people, well, I've never even thought of that. Like, I didn't even know I could pick that. And we can. And I didn't know that either for a long time, but you can. And I'll tell you what, if you're a people pleaser like I was, picking the value of freedom, it is the ultimate liberation tool. Okay? You know, you're on a date, you're not happy, you have the freedom to leave. If your value is being a nice girl or being a nice person, it creates a lot of conflict. You know, again, if you come back to love, sometimes the most loving thing is to love yourself in that moment and choose to walk away. But this is why value systems are so underrated, and we are not taught to go deep enough. We are taught, oh, okay, my value system is be nice, be a good friend, be a good family member. But what does that mean? How do we actually act? You know, picking values is great. It looks great on paper, but actually knowing and deciding how you want to show up in the world, that is where change happens. That is where we live the life we want. That is where we activate deeper parts of ourselves. So right now, my life, I've talked about freedom. Empowerment is the next value. It's what I see, one, in my relationship, empowering us to go deeper into the next levels of our understandings, of our capacity to be together. In my business, empowering myself to make all of these changes along with my business. Like in my friendships, I am empowering us to have these different kinds of conversations. In my family, I'm empowering us to go deeper than we ever have before. And this is all an invitation. I can't make anyone do that. But when you start to own, like, this is one of my values, you kind of just show up different. That is the power of knowing your value system. And this is the real secret. This is the real secret sauce right here. You get to pick. Okay? None of this is given to us, and you can change it tomorrow. Today, my value system is that I do what's best for me, right? Like self-empowerment. And then tomorrow, my value system is that I'm of service to the universe. Play around with it and find where your self, your soul, the innerness of your being wants to go. You'll feel it. It's like a flow. It's a river. So it's not what you're being told that you have to show up as or what you think. It's saying, all right, family, is this really my value system? Okay, do I want it to be my value system? And if I do, what does that look like to me? Like, how do I show up if family is my full value system? What emotions does that evoke? Work. So, dedication to work. What does it give me if that's my value system? Where is it leading me? And a lot of the times, this is a huge portal for self-growth, a huge portal for self-discovery. That will change potentially month by month, year by year. And you can have like core values that then spread out into every area of your life. That's kind of the goal. So the more universal what you're picking is, and that feels true to you, the more it'll be felt in every area of your life. You could pick something, for example, like kindness or empowerment. Look at the difference between the two. Courage or bravery. I've never felt the need to pick one of those, but I feel maybe that there's people here who will. For me, love does that. Like, if I'm my most loving self, often it catapults me into moments where I have to be courageous or brave. Like, I have to have the hard conversations. So you want to look really deeply at what are the words that spark something in you. Like, that you're like, oh, I felt that. There's something there. And what are your non-negotiables? So as much as we can have values that we want to follow, we also should have things that we're like, that's a no for me, dude. Nope, that's a no-go. So, it might be self-trust. My value is self-trust. If something feels wrong, I honor it. Like, I don't question it. I have to go with that. It could be, if someone's value system doesn't align with mine, I can love them, but I might not be as close to them. So often clients will come to me with the situation that they're going through, and they'll love the person very much, but there will be a conflict going on. And it's often not that there's a disagreement or that there's anything but love those two people have. It's that there is a conflict of values. So let's imagine two people are starting a business. You have A person, B person. A person's major value is freedom. B person's value is stability. There is a world where this could work very well. If their personalities match, right? But if A person thinks that all the students should be allowed to test things and should be allowed to explore and have development by themselves, but B person thinks that every student needs to be followed and they need to follow a set protocol, that is a conflict in values in a course. It won't work unless they're both open to the value systems enmeshing. But this is why even in business, value systems is huge. Often with money, this can come up. If someone's value system is financial profit, that is okay. But is it over their value system of like human connection and ethical behaviors? Those are all value systems. Like, where does it fall? And this is kind of, gray territory, which we find ourselves in a lot more until we're clear on our values. So if you're listening and you want to get clear on your values, here's what you're going to do. You are going to write down the top 5 happiest times in your life, the points where you felt the most free, and I want you to notice down to the detail what you were doing, who you were with, and how old you were. So we often change values because it's what society expects as you become older. And you don't have to. You want to look at what's the common theme, what value was being expressed there, and get clear on that. You can do this for every area of your life if you want, like job. When was I the happiest in my job? Was I connecting with people? What was I doing? But write these down and start to notice what are the patterns. And then you can write down the 5 times you were probably the most triggered. This is better to do recent. And lovingly look at, what was I not okay with? Or what was at the universe asking me to be okay with? That will guide you to your value system that you're at right now. And you will notice a world of difference if you are clear on your value systems, because it is no longer personal. It's simply what your value system is. Hey, that doesn't align with my value systems, and I wish you all the best. There's no mess. There's no personal agenda or will in that. That is simply, this is who I am. I can't really express it in any other way, and I have to honor that. I send you love. You will also see yourself so much more clearly when you are honest about not who you want to be, who you are. And you do the shadow work that goes alongside that. So you might need to do some shadow work as you do this. What am I afraid will happen if I'm this person who is completely honest? What will happen if my value system changes away from friendship? What will happen? And, even the opposite, right? Like if I was going from freedom to parenting, I might have to think, what am I afraid of losing? There is a gift in all of that. You help yourself step into the role and embody it. So my gift or my recommendation for today is become clear on who you really are and honor them and let them come out. I'm sure some of you have already done this, but if you haven't, I hope this gave you a deeper dive into who you want to become. Who is your soul telling you? This is our values. We got to go with it. You won't judge others either for their values when you're clear on yours. Because what's there to judge? That's just the experience of what's important to them. Honor that. And they will honor yours. Or they won't, but you just won't care because it's your truth. The worst thing that can happen when you're not clear on your own values is you will live your life for everyone else. It will be like you're in a car and there's fog and you're only able to see a few feet ahead. Versus really knowing your own values is like being on Everest, where you see everything. You have a clear perspective. Doesn't mean it's easy. Climbing Everest is not easy, but things are clear. You don't have to spend as much in time noticing why something bothers you. You just know it's a difference in values. The outside world may not even notice you show up differently, but you will. You will notice that you are different because you are honoring yourself in a way that previously may not have felt honored. You, in a weird way, are saying, I value you to myself. I value what's important to myself, my soul's journey. And your soul will show you what type of values it wants you to embody. Where you have a lot of difficulties, there's usually something around that with values. Where you feel a disconnect, there's something there around values. And in a more mythological, spiritual aspect of this, your values connect into your soul's purpose and what you're meant to learn in this lifetime. Give yourself and love yourself enough to know your value system. Deeply know your value system. To the point where you don't have to think as much when people do anything because you just already know how you're going to respond. It's not even a thinking, it's a feeling, it's a beingness. It's how you just show up because the value is moving through you. That is when your authentic expression starts to really come into the world. We've all been taught, men and women, to hold this back in different realms of our life. So for women, it's often in business that we're taught to act certain ways. And for men, it's in personal relationships. And so we often block, almost brings tears to my eyes, who we really are in those facets of our life. Not everyone. There's a lot of people doing the work and they're moving out of that. But in general, there's a lot of pain and withholding of who we really are in different areas of our life. You set free something not only in yourself but in others when that is displayed. Whatever you find value in, it will create a vibrational match to those who also value that. You'll just watch it happen. It just happens. My friendships have changed so much because I really honored that certain things have changed, and now I have a lot of friends who have the same values. Didn't plan that way, it just happened. I hope that you find something deep that excites you at the beginning. I wanted to say end, but the beginning of your value journey. Or this, whatever this sparked. There's a lot here. There's a lot here. Your values really are a compass to having an aligned life that you love. And that's speaking from experience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. The greatest gift you can give the planet right now is to be yourself. And to love the planet while you do that. And to love others while you do that. This journey's over in the blink of an eye. It's worth exploring how you want to show up in that process. I love you. I hope you have a wonderful day, an ego sum. I hope you tune into our next episode, and I'll see you later.